Well, it's 2024. I have before me Dr. Richard Scott for our usual the doctor is in the house sort of thing. He's not in my house, he's in his. But anyway, um, hello, Richard.
Andy, it's great, and it is a new year, and it's high time we got together again.
It is indeed, and we are here. Prior to Christmas, we were looking at gene editing. We've looked at caffeine, we've looked at sleep. We did a kind of a lots of questions to fire at you was one of the later sessions. But it's a new year, it's new stuff, new topics. So what have you got for us today then, Richard?
Well, has been a theme on this show, really. I've been looking at what's been in the news, what's a hot topic, and ironically, the hot topic today is about cold dipping. So we're looking at the benefits of cold dips that people have done for a long time. But what's the science behind it? And why does it matter? And in fact, does it matter? So
We
that's
see it
where
everywhere, don't we? Everybody seems to think, oh, it's this new thing, we've got to do it, and it's this brand new thing. And I'm pretty sure it's not that new, and everybody is saying you should do it. Maybe not, but that's what you're here for, to clear up the confusion.
right. Well, yes, indeed. So you've answered my first question. Is it a new thing? How long has it been around? Well, cold dips. Also, by the way, there's different phrases: plunging, cryotherapy has been around apparently since 3,500 BC. So there you go. That's 5,500 years, and that's minimum. Ancient Egyptians, the Greeks, noted that cold dipping, I think that's the phrase I'll use tonight, cold dipping, has the power to cleanse both the body and the soul, as they phrased it. The Romans, in the Roman days, it was so popular, there was a thing called the frigidarium, which sounds very unpleasant, but
Yes.
that was their place of cold dipping, the frigidarium. So it's been in many cultures: Egypt, Greek, Roman. Then there was a bit of a decline in the Middle Ages before, in the Renaissance and particularly Victorian times, what they then termed as hydrotherapy has become even more popular. And now it's that popularity has been, I feel like, rediscovered. So what's been increasing since certainly the Victorian times has now really hit the news. And I have to say that I was aware of it merely for sportsmen. I'm into sport, and I knew that high level sportsmen, say the Andy Murrays of this world, would play tennis for 4 hours, get hugely sweaty, and then drop into a cold bath, which sounded very, very nasty to me, I have to say. When
Me
I
too.
when I play sport, I like to have a hot bath. But the guys who are good at it, they have a cold bath, a seriously cold bath, an ice bath. Um, and more people, sportsmen, were doing it as a performance enhancer, not an illegal one like doping, a thoroughly legal one. So I thought there must be something in it. And then I came across this Dutchman. Now, some people may have heard of Wim Hof, Wimhof, Wim Hof. And he's known as the Iceman around the world for very good reasons. He was famous for climbing Kilimanjaro, which I've done in coats, jumpers. He did it in shorts, as you do. He's also done a half marathon in the Arctic in bare feet. Well, there you go. He stood in a container with ice cubes in for nearly 2 hours. This is an unusual guy. He holds the Guinness World Record for swimming underwater, under ice. Bad enough swimming underwater, imagine doing it under ice, and for prolonged full body contact with ice. So this is an extreme guy. But leaving aside professional sportsmen or women and the Iceman, what about, dare I say, normal human beings? What about the rest of us? Is there anything worthwhile in cold dipping for us? And the science suggests there is. Cold immersion therapy, so another term, a bath or a shower, helps both bodies and minds, just like the Romans discovered. Physically, it reduces inflammation and muscle soreness. So when Andy Murray, or you or I, after a run, go for a cold dip, we're going to be less sore afterwards, less inflamed, less stiff, therefore, after exercise. It seems to keep injuries at bay. It also reduces other forms of pain and boosts our circulations. It helps immunity, helping us fight disease. It improves metabolism. So there's a whole range of reasons why these cold dips seem to be good for us. And we'll look at the actual practical details in a second. What about mentally? Well, it's also good. Cold dips have been shown to increase endorphins, adrenaline, and dopamine, if you like, the feel-good hormones. So our mood improves. Um, for me, my mood would improve when I got out of the cold bath. However, just leaving cynicism aside, yes, it's good hormonally. It reduces stress, it reduces anxiety. So, if you like, we feel better in our heads as well as in our bodies. Well, that's good news because, to be honest, I would need to be very strongly persuaded to put up with the nastiness of an ice bath.
Me too.
Andy as well. So, just say we're persuaded, or at least persuaded to give it a go. How do we give it a go? How do we go about it? Well, when we talk about something cold, how cold? Well, less than 15 degrees C. Now, some go, if you like, the whole hog and jump into ice baths like the Iceman. Um, Others will do the same, like jumping into the Serpentine. Don't people do that on New Year's Day, the New Year's Day dip? But it actually only has to be less than 15 degrees C, so you can do it more gently. For example, you can switch from a hot shower, you run the hot shower, then you move it down to warm, and then you shift it down to cold. You go down through the gears. So you don't have to be drastic and jump into the Serpentine or an ice bath. You can just go down through the gears, and that still has an effect. And then the next question really is how long? Well, you don't have to go for marathons. 2 to 3 minutes is quite enough. This is enough to send a message to our nervous systems, triggering these helpful hormonal responses. And in fact, my notes suggest start even more gently. 1 minute will do for the moment. A minute's cold shower, and then as you build up tolerance, you can build up the time. And by the way, don't do it every day. You can actually apparently do yourself some harm. I didn't quite find out how, but you can do yourself some harm if you overdo it. And by the way, don't do it if you've got a heart condition. That's obvious. That can trigger unhelpful changes in your circulation. Talk to your GP first if that's the case. So let's go for 2 to 3 minutes at a time, maybe starting with one, but aiming for 2 to 3 minutes at a time, and maximum 11 minutes per week. So there you go. Four sessions, alternate days would be fine. By the way, it also helps burn some fat off. So another benefit for us, as well as all the other physical and mental benefits. Is there any time of day it makes any difference? Well, some people prefer it at night time, before bedtime. There's some evidence that it helps us sleep better. We're a bit more relaxed if we do so. So, very brief summary. Yes, there's experience over thousands of years. And now, and this is, I think, where science studies these things, science is now backing up what the Romans, the Greeks, the Egyptians, and others thought was the case. There does seem to be benefits to cold dipping. And so really, I would just say to you, Andy, and also to the listeners, I'd love to know people's experience. You and I perhaps don't have any experience yet, but hopefully there's some listeners, oh yeah, I do it, and this is what I find. Well, that would be nice to know. So I'd love people to write in and tell us what they think. And if this talk has stimulated some people who haven't done it before to do so equally, don't just want those people with experience. Tell us, the first time, oh, it was awful, I'll never do it again. Or, that wasn't as bad as I thought. And I did feel better after. So there's an opportunity.
Yes. So I had a couple of thoughts. The one that immediately came to mind when you said about heart issues was I saw some Royal Marine Commandos. They're doing some Arctic training, and part of the training is they have to jump into the icy water. They're always tied just in case their heart stops, which is a pretty big issue.
It is, and I mean, to be fair, I mean, if you think of these poor people who get, try to cross the channel, or people who, in the Titanic when it goes down, if you're in the water, in ice cold water for too long, what kills you is your heart stops.
Yeah.
That's what happens. And so, we have to be sensible about these things.
Hence the building it up, not just, okay, let's have a crack at this, fill the wheelie bin with ice and jump in, which would not be sensible.
I think so. If I was persuaded to do this myself, I would go down through the gears, through the showers, think, okay, I can do this. I'm going to maybe have a very brief, even 10-second ice dip. By the way, living opposite the sea, which I do, there have been a lot of people dipping into the sea this Christmas, and literally they walk in, they go down, they come out of the water and they come straight back out again. You know, they're literally doing the 10 or 20-second dip, and well done to them, but they're not doing it for too long.
No. Okay. Right. There's a few things that I need to follow up on. One of them is when it's hot weather, we're told if it's very, very hot, the temperature's risen, you can't sleep, go and get a cool shower. So we kind of that's been advice around since I was a little kid. And it kind of makes sense, but I really wrestle mentally to think that if you want to help your muscles relax, not to have something warm, but to have something cold, could actually be advantageous for sports people. That one, it does kind of mess my brain slightly to try and understand that.
Yeah, and I would agree with you. Other than the first thought, which is, phew, I've done it. And now I don't have to, you know, because maybe someone had been worrying about doing it all day until they actually dipped in. So you got the sort of relaxation thing there. But we can't ignore the science. You know, people who've studied these things, and I guess to check out the endorphins, etc., they'd have to be in water for a little bit of time to see the hormonal response. We can't ignore the fact the science has actually found some hormone changes which seem to be helpful. And so, whilst we might think, how does that work? And that's obviously triggers the scientists to look into it. It does seem to.
Yeah. No, it's fascinating. And then you've got even more of an extreme. So people in Finland, we had some folks staying with us, and she talked about what they do, which would be normally you go into a sauna, you get super, super hot, and then you run down to the lake and jump in, which seems like sort of what we're talking, but it's going from a real extremes, not just, you know, ambient temperature to that. I mean, they're going from really hot sauna into the lake.
Sure, absolutely, no different, I guess, from Andy Murray walking off, sweating, heart rate, you know, pounding away, overheated, to suddenly going straight into a cold bath. Yeah, I just think that I still think for most people, it's probably more sensible going down through the gears. Yes, these extreme people do these things, and they get away with it in the main.
I mean, the Andy Murray example that you gave, he is a sportsman. He's operated at the top of his game. He's got many people caring for him in so many different ways because he is at the peak of pretty much the peak of what any of us could ever hope to aspire to. So he's probably also gone up through the gears, I would imagine, because no one would want to risk him by saying, yeah, jump in here, it's good for you. They're going to be protecting his, I suppose, his ability, his brand, I suppose.
That's a good point, yeah.
Okay, Kilimanjaro in shorts. That's a fascinating one. It begs the question of why. I suppose he's got a point. But the one about the feet, doing a marathon without feet on. You see,
without shoes on, he's got his feet on, doesn't have his shoes on.
Shoes, because I always remember, basically, at first aid training, you shouldn't leave an ice pack on something for too long, because you could actually then cause damage.
I know. I mean, I think he is demonstrating what the human body can do. Now, that's not to say that things can't go wrong, and
Yes.
actually, he maybe doesn't always talk about the things that didn't work out so well in his life.
Yeah.
I think it does show the human body is amazing for doing extraordinary things. Should you put it through the ringer, in a sense. Most of us would like to think, yeah, I want to get the benefits, but I don't think I fancy half a marathon without shoes on.
You see, I'm thinking, isn't there a warmer version of the ice bath? That's where my brain goes to. Is there a warmer version? So you're saying less than 15 degrees. So a fridge in the UK should be operating between under 5 degrees. That's where a fridge should operate. So we're talking about 15 degrees, which would be, a typical British summer's day, really. It's not hot or cold, is it?
Well, no, but with water on, it does feel a bit colder.
Yeah.
So I think if you've got to have a 15-degree shower, that's reasonably cold. It's not terrible, but it's going to feel a bit colder than just 15 degrees in the air.
And another one that does spring to mind, again from Finland, Sweden, is it's normal to leave babies, outside in the cold, which at first breath you think, that can't be right. I mean, they're wrapped up. They're not just, left outside on the snow. But that comes back into this stuff about immunity. It comes into the endorphins, the dopamines, all that stuff that it's helping anxiety and stress because the babies sleep peacefully. So there must be something in this because, even old wives' tales, so-called, a lot of it probably is rooted in something, may have been warped and distorted over time, but a lot of this stuff, there's some core of truth somewhere, and it's trying to. That's what I enjoy. It's getting down to what is the actual truth in this, and like you're saying,
and I think also they're building up some resilience.
Yeah.
And also this is the environment in which you're going to be living. So you might as well start young.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love these sessions. I learn so much.
Me
So
too.
let me come back to if you wanted to try this, um, a minute at a time, maybe a cold shower, but not every day. Why not every day?
Yeah, that's a good question. I didn't see the answer there, but I think it's a bit like most of us don't exercise every day. We're meant to do it 4 times a week. So in other words, you have a day off. Perhaps it's just to let your body recover because you're doing something quite abnormal, which you're not used to. And it's not saying that you can't do it every day, but it's just recommending, 4 times a week for a lot of these things is really quite sufficient to get the benefit. And probably you're not going to get much more benefit by doing it every day, and there may be some harm, but I'm not quite sure how.
No, fair enough. One that I've got to come back. You're talking about Romans. We're talking about what we conceive as a very hot environment. It just makes me wonder, how did they do a cold water plunge in a
Yes.
desert?
Yeah, well, indeed. I mean, I guess probably what they do is things. I mean, in Jesus's time, in a hot country in Palestine, they used to keep water cold by putting these huge stone jars, and of course, that's where Jesus turned water into wine. So you can keep, water liquids cold by putting them in that sort of environment, even in hot countries. And I think that's probably what they would have done, transferred it from there to or some places underground might have been some streams. There may have been some icy streams, even in cold places.
Which is true. Victorians worked out how to keep snow all through the year. So they had freezers in the summer in the Victorian era, which is
Without electricity.
Yes. No electric bills. Right. Does this, because I know you're into your sport, does this knowledge that you now have, does it change your perception towards this?
It changed my. I mean, it's very interesting. It's very interesting information. For me, what I learned because I've had so many injuries over the years through not looking after myself in sport properly, and what I found was very very helpful was to change my practice. But it was to change my practice in terms of I discovered that warming down is more important than warming up. So doing the stretches afterwards, I do a few before, but I properly do them afterwards, and that protected me. Now here's another way to protect oneself. For me, I have to say the warming down has kept me from getting injuries. So I think I'm probably going to stick to the warming down. But I would love people to have a go at this because we've got some science behind it. And I'd love to know what their experience is, or people who are already doing it. Let us know. Tell us, and then maybe I'll be persuaded.
Yes, I'm with you. When you've done it, I'll be right behind you. Reducing stress and anxiety. We've always got these, a million ways that you can save, reduce stress, reduce anxiety. And here we've got one that most of us, irrespective of wealth, actually could access, whether it's the local river or a cold water shower or the sea. So actually, there's all these things that we have to pay for to help us be less stressed. But this is one of those things that actually is free.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's completely natural. No additives were involved. No E factors. It's completely free. No drugs. Actually, you're quite right. What's a good way to do things? And I think if somebody is stressed and anxious, and that applies to such a high proportion of the population, Christians certainly get stressed and anxious. Yeah, it might well be worth trying.
I really enjoyed this one because I sort of thought there must be something in this because the image in my mind was the river dance going back 20, 30 years. They came off the stage having done the river dance. If you don't know what the river dance is, it's Irish dancing with lots and lots and lots of very fast foot movements. They came off the stage, they had a wheelie bin with ice, and the singers one by one jumped in that and then got out. And they said it was to help the muscles. But I mean, even in the phrase warming up, warming down, this is like freezing down.
You're right, and I loved river dance when I first came across it. It was just sensational, especially as I came across it in Tanzania and Africa when I was working. It's the only video I ever saw, and it was just such pleasure. But I didn't know that they straight away went into an ice bath. That's amazing, or an ice leg bath, if you like. Amazing.
Yeah, it was really been with ice. It was definitely looked like ice to me. I don't think it was plastic blocks. I think it was definitely ice. But they said it helped the muscles not get a strain. But I mean, again, if we've got people at the peak of their fitness doing this, then there's probably something in this.
Certainly reduces lactic acid. And there's always some lactic acid overflow when muscles are put through really hard work, especially anaerobic work at the beginning. And lactic acid seems to be a bad guy in terms of soreness and inflammation. So if it can reduce lactic acid, then yeah, it'll do a good job.
Can you just explain what's lactic acid? Because I actually have no clue, apart from I
Right.
know of it.
So when you suddenly start running and you think, crikey, this is hard work until you get wind. And what happens is you start off, you haven't got enough oxygen on board, and you produce a waste product, which is called lactic acid. And until the oxygen flows through the body, your veins and arteries open up. Your things are just working better as a sportsman. Then you're able to work aerobically rather than what we call anaerobically. Anaerobically means not enough oxygen, and so you're suddenly not producing the amount of lactic acid that you were initially. So it becomes less painful. Along the way, lactic acid it's a warning sign to us, and that's why people warm up before doing a long run, isn't it? You're trying to get yourself to work aerobically as quickly as possible. But it seems to be a bad guy in terms of inflammation as well.
Okay. This didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. I sort of thought some positive, but that's fascinating. We did an interview on coffee a while back. I now drink coffee.
Good.
I have started drinking coffee because I listened to that interview twice and I thought, do you know, I'm going to give coffee a go. And now I really like it in the mornings. And it's only taking me a week.
Very good. I'm pleased.
See, I'm following the doctor's instructions. Right. This has left me slightly speechless because I've really enjoyed this one. We've learned loads. Egyptians, Romans, Victorians. It's there back in history. We've now got modern sports people and dancers at the peak of their fitness who are doing this sort of thing. But if you want to do it and you've got a heart issue, please see your GP first. Get some advice. But yes, you can start slow, 1 minute with a cold shower, and you can build up. Don't do it every day, and eventually you can get colder. But only 15 degrees. We actually we have a meat probe which we use for the bath, so it's not too hot. But you can stick that in cold water.
Good point. Absolutely.
Then you can make sure
with my grandchildren, there's a little thing a little round thing you throw in the bath, and it tells you when the temperature's right or if it's too cold or too hot. Exactly. And you can twiddle these things. Absolutely.
Thank you, Richard. I am genuinely quite speechless from this one. I think it's brilliant. The Iceman, interesting guy. Win Hof.
Yes.
Fair enough. I mean, hey.
Very extreme bloke. It seems to work for him, and he's got literally thousands and hundreds of thousands, I'm sure, of followers around the world, who will attest to the fact that it makes a difference.
Okay. I'm going to be tuned on that one for a while. Thank you, Richard, for drawing some more line. I was just conscious that it's out there. I'm thinking, well, if Marines are tied before they jump in the water, there's got to be a potential harm with this. In which case, let's get to the bottom of it and let's shine light on the truth, which is one of my things. Let's get information out there. And yeah, as Richard said, if you do this, could you let us know? If you've not done this, let us know. And if you're thinking about it, we'd like to know how that goes. Even if it's just a cold shower for a minute every other day, 4 times a week, we would like to know how that works out and what are the options. Me personally, I would love to do this if it was warmer, but then it wouldn't do the work, would it?
There's always a downside to these things, Andy.
Well, there are. Yeah, you can't have cold therapy that's heated. It's sort of right. Thank you so much. Any questions you got for Dr. Scott? Let me know. Email's best. hello@pure247radio.org. hello@pure247radio.org. Dr. Richard Scott, GP. Thank you as ever. This is fascinating stuff.
Andy, great to be here. Great that 2024's on us.
Absolutely. Bye for now.